Hello and welcome to another one of my videos. Today I will be talking about the Seven of Cups. As usual, I will start with a description of the card and then we will dive deeper into the symbolism of all of the elements that we can see here. And I will list the meanings of this card in divination at the end of the video, so if you are only interested in knowing what this card means in your readings, you can jump now to the end of the video, and the timestamp for when I start talking about that is shown below now. We're going to have a quick look at the card now to see the main elements that we can then talk about. So the first look tells us that we have lost this beautiful balance that we had in the six. And this is definitely not looking like a positive card. We can see that again in the seven we are in trouble. The sky is grey and foggy. We have lost the sea again, so the sea has turned into mud here in this card. The lotus flowers are not looking very healthy, they are turned downwards, so we can think that maybe they are drying up here as well, like they did in the five. The stems are quite dark as well, and we notice that in the cups, inside the cups, we have some clear water, but it's being covered by this green slimy substance that is flowing over the cups. So we can say that there is no access to the clean water because it's all masked by this slimy substance. So let's hear now what Crowley says about this card in the book of Thoth. The lotuses have become poisonous, looking like tiger lilies, and instead of water, green slime issues from them and overflows, making the sea a malarious morass. He talks here about a malarious morass, and this refers to a tropical swamp. And we can definitely see that this yellowish-green color that we can see everywhere in the card matches very well what the actual tropical swamp looks like. And we are already getting here this idea of decay and disease, symbolized very well by what he calls the green slime that we can see in the card. And we are already starting to think that the card and the symbolism of the card is a bit disgusting. There is a slime here, there's malarious morass, so there's a diseased swamp. And we will see how this relates to the meaning of the card in just a moment. And Crowley tells us that the flowers are not lotus flowers anymore. Well, actually he says that they have become poisonous and they look like tiger lilies now. And tiger lilies are a symbol of pride, confidence, fortune, optimism, and luck. So if we compare them to the meaning of the lotus flower, which has more of a spiritual meaning, we see that in this card our focus turns to more material and ego-driven pursuits rather than spirituality. And I have already talked about the symbolism of the lotus flower in my previous videos, but here I'm just going to mention again that lotus flower is linked to our immortal part. So this is our immortal soul. This is the energy flowing through our body, through our chakras. And it's also linked to how we use this energy in our everyday life to progress on our spiritual path. So you can see how it contrasts with the symbol of the tiger lily as pride, confidence, luck, optimism, and fortune. In this way, they are kind of opposites of each other. Let's have a look now at where we are on the Tree of Life. So we are in Netzach now. This is the Sephira connected with planet Venus and color green. So we can see that this green color also connects us to the energy of Venus. And Netzach starts the astral triangle, and we are getting closer and closer to Malkuth, our manifested world, but we can see that we have moved away now from the middle pillar, so we have moved away from the harmony, and we will be trying to get back on track again. If we compare the elements of the card and where they are located to the diagram of the Tree of Life, we will see that we have lost the supernal triangle here. So if we have a look again, we have lost this part and we only have this. So this is showing symbolically that we have lost the connection with the divine. We have lost the connection with the higher or spiritual side of us, and we are turning more and more towards the material world. And we can see that this cup representing Malkuth here is the biggest one of all of the cups here. So we are really focused on getting something that our ego wants and getting the material things in life. And this is why we are getting in trouble. Because if you remember from my previous videos, whenever in this deck we are turning away from spirituality and we are focusing too much on material gains, we will always be out of balance and we will always have to suffer something so that the suffering can pull us back onto our path that we were supposed to be on. Now let's hear another quote that will tell us a bit more about the energy of the card. This card refers to the seven, Netzach, in the suit of water. Here recurs the invariable weakness arising from lack of balance. Also, the card is governed by Venus in Scorpio. Her dignity is not good in this sign. One is reminded that Venus is the planet of copper, external splendor and internal corruption. So if we have a look at the decan wheel, we are here in the last decan of Scorpio now. So this is Venus in Scorpio. And this decan is associated with the time frame from the 12th of November until the 22nd of November. We have a double influence of Venus in this card, first through Sephira Netzach, and now secondly through the astrological attribution to Venus in Scorpio. And as was mentioned in the quote, Venus is not very happy in the sign of Scorpio. This is a Mars-ruled sign, and it's opposite the sign of Taurus. So if you have a look at the decan wheel, you will see that in the zodiac, Scorpio is opposite Taurus. And this means that in Scorpio, Venus is in her sign of adversity. So it just means that Venus will not be able to act out her full potential in this sign. We can say that her actions are impaired in this placement. It's also mentioned here that copper, the metal of Venus, although it looks very beautiful when polished, so it has this external splendor, it also has internal corruption. And if you have any copper pots or pans in the kitchen, first of all, you are very lucky because they're amazing, but also you know how high maintenance they are. Copper, when it's exposed to moisture, it starts to develop this green patina. And this is another echo of the colors in this card. So copper pots and pans are really great because they conduct heat extremely well, but also you need to give them a lot of attention and you need to polish them to keep them in their best shape so that they can serve you for a long time. In my video about the Five of Cups, I mentioned a quote that told us that Scorpio, in its worst aspect, suggests the putrefying power of water. So we had a lot of Martian energy in that card, in the Five, and the putrefaction could not happen for that reason, because all of the water has evaporated. It was just too hot. And now we are in the Seven, and we have this double energy of Venus here. Venus is said to be moderately warm and moist as a planet. It has this quality. So we can see that this warm and moist quality of Venus and the fixed water sign of Scorpio, they both create a perfect condition for the waters to putrefy and turn into this green slime, this tropical swamp that we can see in this card. And this is where the imbalance appears, because we have too much moisture here in the energy of this card, and we don't have enough heat. So the only heat is the quality of a Venus that is moderately warm, and this is not enough to create transformation, like in the 6 with the solar energy. And it's also not enough for the water to evaporate, like the Martian energy in the 5. Here, this stagnant water is just left to decay. Crowley also says in the Book of Thoth that this card is almost the evil and averse image of the 6. It's a wholesome reminder of the fatal ease with which a sacrament may be profaned and prostituted. Lose direct touch with Keter, the highest, diverge ever so little from the delicate balance of the middle pillar, at once the holiest mysteries of nature become the obscene and shameful secrets of a guilty conscience. We can see that the water that is inside of those cups is starting to decay, is starting to putrefy. And this is because we are covering it with something else, with this green slime. So there can be no flow in the water, there is no access to it. And this shows us symbolically that in this card, water is our emotions. So we are covering up the emotions that we don't want to deal with, and we focus instead on the material gain, on the things that give us a bit of pleasure. And because we don't want to deal with our emotions, they are left to putrefy and to decay, while we are focusing on some perceived pleasures and trying to satisfy our ego. And now I'm going to tell you a bit about how to interpret this card in divination. So this card shows us a situation where we want to hide our lack of happiness. And we are trying to maybe cover up our disappointment in a very unhealthy way. So we can do it with an excess of material pleasures. We can do it with addictions. This card quite often shows addictions. And addictions are unfortunately our way of distracting ourselves from some difficult or traumatic feelings that we unfortunately choose not to deal with. And this can be addiction not only to drugs or alcohol, but this can be even like overeating or an addiction to sex. So the 7 of Cups shows us that in a way we are shifting our attention to something that gives us momentary pleasure in order not to feel what we are feeling deep inside. So we want to feel a slightly bit better for a moment. And ultimately, of course, we are making things worse by doing that and not dealing with the root cause of our problems. So really in any situation, whether it is work-related or if it's a relationship reading, this card will mean that you are not happy with how things are at the moment, but you are trying to hide it. You are pretending that everything is fine, but deep inside you are dealing with some disappointments and the feeling of not being fulfilled. In spirituality, a 7 of Cups will mean that you are focused too much on the material gain, on simple pleasures, on what your ego wants, and there is a lack of connection to your higher self. 7 of Cups as advice in your reading will really invite you to deal with your emotions, to engage with what you are feeling, and have the courage to admit that something is wrong when you're not feeling happy. If it shows in your reading as an obstacle, then it will again mean that you are focused too much on the pleasures of life, you are focused too much on what your ego is trying to achieve, and you're ignoring what is happening inside you. And if this is an obstacle, then it will mean that you will be in trouble if you don't deal with your emotions in a healthy way. So you really need to find some way of processing your difficult emotions, and this way you can come back to your spiritual path and you can live in harmony again. That's it for today. Thank you so much for watching, and please remember to like the video and, of course, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. As always, I would like to thank everyone who is supporting the channel, and these are not only people who are supporting the channel financially, but also everyone who is liking and commenting on YouTube, everyone who is sharing the video. This is really great help to reach more people who are interested in learning about Thoth. So thank you so much for today, and I'll see you in the next one. We will be talking about the Eight of Cups very soon. Thank you. Bye.